gentlemen, welcome back to These Go to 11. Once again, I'm Nathan Bell. Joining me, as always, Zach Bartles. Zach, what's going on, man?
Nathan Bell? I thought this was Rob Bell this whole time.
I was on the wrong podcast.
Yeah, nuts to this. Are you edgy at least?
Am I edgy?
Yeah, do you hold to some views that could be considered heretical? Because that's the new cool.
It depends on which podcast you listen to on this thing. Oh, man. Dude, we are so excited to get to our guest and dive back into our topic, or dive into our topic, I should say. But before we do that, we have a very special sponsorship brought to us by the Gut Check Press. And Zach, you know something about that company, don't you?
Yeah, I actually hold two offices there, that of co-founder and chaplain, and key grip. I'm key grip as well.
Key grip. Who's the gaffer over there?
No gaffer. Ted is the Secretary of the Interior and the co-founder, and that is the extent of our office holders.
Nice. Oh, man. Well, we have a great announcement. It's something we've been promoting for the past couple weeks. Zach, go ahead and talk to us about it, because this is actually the last week to get in on it.
Oh, yeah. So I just want to thank everybody in These Go to 11 listener base, because I'm quite sure you are the folks who brought us over that $1,000 meaningless mark. And I say meaningless both because we long since already met the required funds to fund the project, and also because after you take out the percentage that Kickstarter takes, we're nowhere near $1,000. They're basically like, you have a dream, and we will siphon most of that dream away from you. But it's cool. It's cool because people are excited about this book, Hard Thing on a Beautiful Day by Ted Kluck, Hard Thing on a Beautiful Day and Other Essays by Ted Kluck. I'm excited about it. And I think that it's going to be huge. So yeah, go ahead. You have one last chance. By the time we record again, it will have already ended. And I'll tell you what, man, I'm going down to Jackson, Tennessee, not too long from now. So if you get on board now, and this is a real honor, you could wind up paying for a cigar that I smoke in Ted Kluck's cedar-lined Arnold Kluck smoke room. So
nice.
That's an opportunity that comes along once in a great while. You want to just grab it right. And run.
That's right. That's why we do this podcast, Zach, to fund our vices.
If it were a vice, I would not have offered you one. Hope something about you said that. That was a fun story in another book I wrote, the Gentleman's Smoking Companion.
Another fantastic book that we actually talked about 3 years ago now.
It seems like something in a dream or a dream of a dream, right. Lifetimes ago.
Now, Zach, do you have the exact date of when the Kickstarter ends?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. I think it's a week from today. I think it's 6 days. No, it's six days from today, which would be the 10th.
Okay.
The 10th of April.
10th of April. All right. So jump on that Kickstarter as soon as possible. Before the 10th of April, pick up the book. A lot of cool giveaways on that when you sign up and join the Kickstarter, so make sure you do that. If our audience hasn't already guessed by his whimsical laugh, we have another guest joining us today.
That's what that is.
I know, right? Did you just think I was breaking wind over here? We have one co-founder of These Go to 11 podcast, Greg Dutcher. Greg, what's going on, man?
I've been waiting to say this for 5 minutes. What's up, players? And I'm sorry I couldn't. The Rob Bell, I wanted to chime in on that so much. There were so many things. The Kickstarter campaign Zach was dropping, I wanted to share. Also, it's my brother's birthday that the Kickstarter campaign ends on April 10th, which probably means nothing. So, man, dudes, it's good to be with you guys as always. Always, always. So this Hard Thing on a Beautiful Day is the name of Kluck's newest, Zach? That's right?
Yes, sir, to come out in July.
Nice. So he's kind of going the C.S. Lewis route, right? The collection of essays.
Yeah. Well, it's a very hipster thing to do.
It is. It's very nice. Very nice. I got to know if that works, man, because I've sometimes wondered if on the fiction side of things, this is your world, Zach, is the short stories thing the way to go? That would be the nonfiction equivalent, group of essays, man. Yeah, as you guys know, I can't remember your opinion on this, Zach. I'm a sucker for Mr. King, Stephen King. I love his short stories. Some of them I like better than his novels, but I am always interested when people write short, pithy things. They're like a sniper's bullet. It has to make a mark quick and fast and dirty, and get in and get out. And where a novel or a full-length book treatment, you can amble a little bit. So I will have to get my hands on Mr. Cluck's book so I can put them on my shelf just like I have Zach's.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
What we're looking at here is really more of an attention span deficit situation.
Yes.
Had I written a collection of short stories, you probably would have read a couple of them by now.
There is no doubt, dude. I think you are on to something. The ADD issue, as I've said, Nathan, you've heard me say that. Remember years ago, Lisa said, all I asked was these 2 baskets of laundry that is to be put away. So I'm sorry, babe, it's my ADD. And she said, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's your LAZY, which was good. She's quite the witty one, that Lisa Duggar. And gets me on many, many of those things. But yeah, no, seriously, that sounds like a cool project, man. Glad to be hearing about this now.
Absolutely.
All right, well, can I put you down for a little Kickstarter? Or?
Put me down in the Kickstarter campaign. Now, listen, I'll have my people call Cluck's people.
I think I might be Cluck's people, honestly. Have your people call me.
Yeah, in other words, I'll have my person call Cluck's person.
So Nathan, we'll want to just hang on, you and I, after the podcast is over.
Nathan, will you be my person?
That's right.
Pass this on. That's good, man. No, that sounds awesome.
That's great. So we are here once again looking at Easter coming up in just a couple of short weeks, and wanted to do another Easter one because, Greg, what you're doing is, I wouldn't say it's original, but it's still very good. And it's something that...
No, Nathan, I'm the only person to ever do something like this.
It's so revolutionary what you're doing.
Yes, I would like you to retract that statement. It reminds me of that dude. You know that dude we laugh at? The YouTube guy who does the... what is it, Nathan? Remember I showed all you guys?
Oh, the youth group thing?
Leaders?
Yeah.
Yeah, the youth group thing. Have you seen that, Zach? Some dude, I don't know where he's come from, but he does the best. I think the video is called Every Student Ministry Pastor Ever. And he said, guys, we're going to do something amazing, guys. It's going to be epic, guys. Friday night, we're going to have games and pizza.
Yeah, I've seen that, yeah.
Yeah, and he promotes that. He does one at Christmas that I actually like a little better. It's not as popular. But he goes, guys, listen, guys, you got to come out. Pastor Steve, tomorrow, Christmas Eve, he's going to be sharing the Christmas story in the most unique way you've ever heard. He's going to be sharing it from the perspective of the innkeeper. So that is about the depth of my originality on this current Easter series. Yeah. Which is on the 7 sayings of Jesus on the cross.
Oh my gosh, that sucker's got whiskers on it now.
Somebody wake up that Rip Van Winkle sermon series, and tell him to go back to sleep. But yeah, that's not very original. But I will say, Nathan, it sets up nicely when you can start preaching in February, something that'll take you all the way through Easter. That can be pretty cool.
Yeah. Zach, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about what Greg's been going through in the sermon, but have you started anything with Easter yet in terms of preparation for sermons or anything like that?
Are you asking me if I've started prepping my Easter morning sermon?
Well, no, if you have a series that you're doing leading up to Easter.
Oh, nah, I'm preaching through Acts, man. Mm-hmm. I always just trust Providence, with the exception of Mother's Day, which I've laid that out before, the series of gaffes. I have been blown away by how many times Christmas, Easter, Pentecost, all this stuff happens to land without planning right where it's supposed to.
That's true.
I'm in Revelation one year, and I'm on Behold, the one who died and is now alive forevermore. And I was just like, well, there's Easter. I mean, it just falls right on. And if it doesn't quite fall exactly on the right day, I can sort of nuance it, maybe stick a little one-off in there, or squish two passages together to make them one or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm in Acts, and I have a weird defiant thing about preaching, expository preaching, Haddon Robinson kind of thing, where like I feel if I deviate too much for anything but the highest of holidays from preaching right through books of the Bible, that like the ghost of Haddon Robinson will drag me down to Sheol.
Yes, and as he's dragging you down, he's going to make sure that you give only 1 point.
Yeah, here's the big idea, buddy. You're damned.
Here's the big idea. That's it. Yeah, absolutely, dude. If I could echo, I've experienced the same thing. Like, it is pretty cool. You know, it is pretty cool when you're showing up on a Sunday. There are times I haven't even remembered. You know, I remember one Sunday, my mother-in-law, bless her heart, came up to me and pointed out a couple that had a bunch of family there, and they were dressed up. And she said, "Greg, I have a hunch that you don't know that you're dedicating their baby today." And I said, "Wow." So, dude, it was a combination. I preached. It may have been when I was in Mark. It was years ago, but this is a true story. This might have been pre-Nathan, dude. Were you ever there when we were at Beachmont in the gym?
No.
Yeah, that was pre-you. We were at Beachmont, a little site we were on for about 6 months or so in between buildings. And this family's there. They're dedicating their beautiful little girl, and all dialed up, and so many parents and grandparents there. I would have completely missed it because I'm in the hyper-focus zone on Sunday. And I was preaching on Jesus blessing the little children.
Oh, yeah.
Dude,
planned it just for that couple.
The family
so they thought.
Made a point of thanking me for coordinating it and speaking to the deepest level. And of course, I did what any committed Christian pastor would do. I lied like a cheap rug and accepted their compliment. Said, "Well, nothing. I wouldn't ever want to fall short of that." No, I think I kind of deflected or something, but. Yeah, dude, it was. And then another aside, my own niece, so Lisa's brother Scott, his wife Jen, when their littlest one, Scarlett, was being dedicated at our church, at the very end, I go through the whole sermon. We might even have communion that Sunday. I'm done preaching. I'm doing the closing prayer, and as I'm doing the closing prayer, my knee is being squeezed. There was no stage or platform, Nathan, in the old building.
Right. Yep.
So Lisa has snaked her way up to the front. So I pause in my prayer, and I look up, and Lisa is whispering, "Scarlett," which sounds like a weird, creepy horror movie scene. But and I was like, "Oh, my soul." So that one I couldn't cover up. I said, "Hey, everybody, I'm happy to say that I have almost skipped my own niece's dedication." So, yeah, it's a train wreck, dude. I'm a total train wreck. But, yeah, it is cool, though, dude, when you are like, wow, I just can't believe how this text is so applicable. It's almost like, the Holy Spirit might be involved. I don't want to be too radical.
You sound like some kind of flaky, hippy-dippy Pentecostal.
With a double dose of the Holy Ghost. So yes, I love that, man. So, Zach, where are you in Acts right now?
Man, I'm in chapter 13. Just finished chapter 13. And I tell you what, I have sat under 3 different preachers starting to preach through Acts. And I don't know why, but they get to Paul's conversion and then maybe Cornelius, and then they just lose interest and wander off. And they often promise, I'll be back. I'm just going to break because it's such a long book. And they never come back. One of them actually retired. I'm like, what? You so badly don't want to preach this? But and with Revelation, I preached the whole thing. I didn't stop after those letters in the first 3 chapters. I got into the weird stuff. I got all weird with it. But we're going through, and I am probably going to break halfway through. I did that with Judges. Broke halfway through in the middle and preached Ruth for all the ladies who were sick of the carnage. Then I went back. But
that's so funny.
We're going to go all the way through, and I think I don't understand why it's hard to preach a guy like sailing around. I don't know if you find this, but if there's too much like applicable stuff in a text, and you can't break it down into smaller pieces easily without being pedantic. It can be overwhelming, and when you're like, how the heck am I going to preach that? Yeah. Sometimes because there's such a limit to what you could say, it's easier to kind of build a sermon around, a more obscure piece of that text, and you can really exhaust it without having 55 minutes of preaching.
You can, yeah, well said. I remember, I don't know if you were there for this either, Nathan. I'm going to the nostalgic.
Nathan never
going back in time, man.
What I'm getting here.
I am, dude. But our mutual friend, Mr. Hartland, guest preached at CFC some years back, and he preached, if I remember rightly, kind of to your point, Zach, he preached Acts 27 and 28 as a unit. Or wait, did he preach it as a unit, or did Steve preach as a eunuch? Sorry, dudes, I always get that confused. Do they want me to preach as a eunuch, or do they want me to preach a unit? Anyway, I think he preached a unit, and I still remember the title. It about covered it. Was good stuff happens, bad stuff happens, and it was a great kind of overarching narrative, or not even a narrative, just a hat rack to hang a couple of key pieces on, and the shipwreck and the Isle of Malta, and he house arrest. He just covered a lot of good stuff. And I thought, to your point, Zach, I don't think I have ever touched Acts 27 and 28 in a sermon listening posture, ever. I think, I've personal Bible study, personal reading, devotion, but I am with you. People seem to peter out after, which I don't get. I totally get it with Exodus. Let's face it, dude, after chapter 15, man, you're in big trouble. Exodus is just so exciting, those first, and then the Exodus proper in 14, the song in 15, and then as soon as you get into the prescriptive, details of how to construct the tabernacle, it can get a little tough. So when I've done that before, I kind of 2 or 3 messages on the role of the tabernacle, and then go right to chapter 40, right, with the Shekinah glory hovering over the, and God's dwelling with his people, because, man, that's some tough sledding.
I preached through Joshua, and I'm going through at a nice slow pace, and then I get to the the inheritances of the land, which is several chapters long, and I banged that puppy out in 1 week.
So did I.
Yep.
Dude, I did that.
I remember that.
You remember that, Nathan?
Yep.
Same thing. I did Joshua in same fashion. I did Joshua and Judges, dude. Took a break in the middle of both. I did something topical probably for like 4 to 6 weeks, just to kind of, you can almost sense your people might be a little fatigued. Dude, so you're done, Judges. That final story, dude, with the woman's dismemberment. If that you're looking at this,
it's not that I find that funny. I'm just laughing nervously.
I had the same. I'm like, this is how I'm going to end the book of Judges, and but often those are the messages that are very memorable to people.
In a good way,
because they've probably never heard it preached on, and when you're starting to do your prep, you see why. How many times, Zach, have you been motivated at a conference and said, man, I am going to tackle the Old Testament And then you actually do it. You're like, you know what? I'd rather preach about the importance of the Old Testament and why we should be in it regularly than actually preaching it.
I try to go every other, though. I don't know about you. I really do. I've done some series where I get to the end and go, man, that was some of my strongest stuff. Jonah was one. I mean, that is easy to preach through.
I just did Jonah. Remember that about a month ago?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ruth really is great because I talk about all the providential stuff. I get to, the birth of the child the week before Christmas, and there's so much in there, the intertextuality and all this stuff, which was great. And I did, I just like, occasionally you get bored with what you're doing, and you want to change it up as much as possible. And I'd been preaching through a couple of epistles, and I said, what would be like maybe the most difficult thing? And I decided to preach the last 3 books of the Old Testament.
Yeah.
And that was some slogging, man. I mean, the woman in the basket being carried away. And it took me a while to get into the rhythm. But once you do, I don't know. I feel like most preaching, it takes a little bit, like any, even if you're trying to watch, everyone's like, this is the best possible show ever. You got to binge it. Now, be aware, the first 2 or 3 episodes are a little slow. That's like every sermon or sermon series, right?
What does that sound like to you, Nathan?
Yeah.
Me pushing you to go all out in Breaking Bad. Listen, dude, you might need, look, it's 5 seasons. You might need to give it 4.5 seasons.
But then the rest is amazing.
Right. But once you're over that hump of 89% of the show, that last 11%, man, is going to make it worth it. Yeah, that's interesting. Hey, Zach, are your sermons? Are they videoed, audioed? What's your media output at your church?
They're all audio. Yeah,
audio.
We don't video, and I keep toying with the idea of like Facebook Live and stuff. But part of the reason I don't do that is because I know I would wind up doing the work on it, and I know I would take a lot of time to do it. I'm kind of a perfectionist. And the other is when I get in on Tuesday morning, I download my audio onto my computer, I listen to it, and there are usually between 4 and 10 little things that I clip out. If I start to say the wrong thing and I correct myself, if I hem and haw for a second, I kind of fix the history, and you can't do that easily with video.
Yes. Now, see, Zach, it's interesting. I would do that if I ever made any mistakes, but I'm trying to relate because I want to be very relatable to other pastors. So, brother, I'm just encouraging you. I love that. And, dude, if I ever make a mistake, I may do that same thing. No, dude, we, as you know, Nathan, that's been our big fall of 2018.
Yep.
Josh, our creative guy, just worked his tail off. And those guys, man, are doing a great job on the video. And they still have aspirations. Right now, it's Facebook Live. You can get it live on the website. I think even YouTube, although I don't think anybody looks at it on YouTube. And then usually, dude, by Monday afternoon, one of our dudes, Lucas, clips it. So, you can get the entire service live on Sunday. Yep. And then he'll clip the sermon, so that goes in the archive and you can get it audio or video. But, dude, I'm the same way. If I had a hand in it, it would drive me crazy because finally just a group of people that put all the legwork into it, and it's been really cool. And it hasn't yet been what people feared, that, nobody's going to come to church because they can just sit around in their boxers and watch it on their couch. Maybe that's happening in 1 or 2 places, but most people are telling us if they do that, it's because they're sick. Or we had a family that was on vacation a couple of weeks ago. They were at their cabin in West Virginia, and they sent me a picture. Hey, we'd love to be able to kind of check in. And that's what we've hoped it would be for, kind of, hey, the best thing is to be here. But if you're not, here's something for you that you can check out online. But, so anyway, Zach, if you have people in your church that'll own it so you don't have to do the work, that'd be good.
I'll tell you what, Greg, one time I saw a video of you preaching.
Yeah.
And you know how when you've heard somebody on the radio for a long time and then you see what they look like, you're always like, what?
Yeah.
That has never been more the case than with you. Oh. I don't know why I had this totally different picture in my head of like your physical appearance and like the presence you'd have while you were preaching.
Yeah.
And it was really disconcerting. And I only lasted like 6 or 7 minutes. I was like, I want to keep my...
Look, Zach, because this, we've always, Nathan called this a family podcast.
That's right.
On the G, maybe slightly PG rating. The biggest concern, as you can imagine, guys, was the distraction I'd be to the ladies. I
can see that.
So what they've tried to do, Zach, is they've added a little paunch around my middle. They've added, they've taken off some of my hair on my head. They photoshopped it out. So I'll be less distracting and enticing for the many female eyes it looks. So they've added some belly fat. They've added maybe 2, 3, maybe 5 chins in there as well. And we do that to serve the ladies that watch. Because that was Lisa's greatest fear is that, that all the eye candy. Oh, dude, I got to drop this one. I think I told you this, Nathan. Zach, just to tell you, give you a sense of my wife, Lisa. Her greatest fear, because I'm cursed with the typical middle-aged man build, big gut, no butt. So her biggest fear, and honestly, she lives in terror of it. Nathan, I think you've seen her talk about this.
Yeah.
Is that, oh my word, she wants the belt cinched so tight. And I said, Lisa, I don't have any butt to keep up my pants, and so I'm trying. So the other day, I'm walking out the front door. I've got my iPad, my Bible, my mug of coffee. I got some, highlighters. It's ridiculous. So I say, babe, can you just open the door for me? I can put those on the roof of my car before I go to church. She comes over. She goes, oh my word, look at this. Your pants are. You look like you look like a rap artist. It's. They're so low. So she comes, she lifts my jacket to see how far they've dropped, and she goes, I can't, I don't think I can come today. Her fear is that skin is going to show. This is what keeps her up at night. So anyway, she kind of hikes up like I'm a 5-year-old child. It's my mom. She grabs the belt loop in the back, hikes up my jeans so they cover my butt. And of course, I dumbly said, "Well, Lisa, maybe I'll be a little bit eye candy for some of the ladies today." To which she says, "Oh yeah, because that's what the ladies really want to see—the top of your non-existent butt." That was my thought. Maybe I want the audience to, maybe other pastors, maybe Zach, are driving into church with thoughts, great hymn lyrics, Mighty Fortress playing. That's the thought I took with me into the pulpit then. So just thought I would. Hey, Nathan, weren't we supposed to talk about Easter?
Nathan, before you jump in there, I realized just now.
I don't even know where to jump.
Just away from what the schedule was saying.
Jump off a bridge, back. Dude. Right? We're in trouble. Oh.
I'm not going to save it, is what I'm saying. I just realized that the picture I had in my mind, which sometimes happens, was like a lesser-known celebrity, like that guy in that movie.
Yeah.
And I just looked him up on IMDb based on a character I remembered him playing. Yeah. And his name is Bruce McGill. That's the face I always saw whenever I heard Greg Dutcher's voice, which Bruce is like McGill. A really thick-necked, like Southern, like good old boy, kind of often plays like racist sheriffs and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, I'm looking him up right now.
Yeah. And so when you didn't look like that at all, honestly, you were a lot slimmer than I thought you were going to be.
Yeah, hey, what do you think of that, Nathan? Zach's a good liar, man. Yeah, I'm looking at some of his famous. I've seen this dude. He's one of those guys you're right to that is in every single movie you've ever seen, but you can't name one.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm looking. I mean, Runaway Jury, Cinderella Man, Behind Enemy Lines, Good Life. Let me see. Yeah, he's been in everything, man. But yeah, I can't, or maybe television as well. Yeah, I'll take that, dude. That's not too bad. I mean, normally I hear things like Ryan Gosling, right? Guys of that nature. Brad Cooper, kind of those guys, those cats are normally what the ladies tell me. Wait, nobody's ever told me that. So yeah, Lisa, of all her fears about what might happen to me in ministry, that's never one. She is completely confident in my hideousness to ward off all temptation. So, hey, I'll take it, man. I'll take it.
Never mind. I almost just took us in a completely different direction. So, Easter.
Yeah, Easter, dude. Get us into Easter quick.
Have you ever in the past given into the temptation to go gimmicky on Easter because more people are going to be around? It's the big day. It's the big deal.
Dude, we go gimmicky every week.
Relative terms.
I was going to say, dude, yeah, we're giving out gift cards to Chick-fil-A and stuff. But here's how we do it, dude. This is how we work it into our budget. The key is, guys, we're giving every new guest a $500 Chick-fil-A card. Now, remember, it can only be used on Sunday. That's how we've been able to work the magic, the bait and switch. So we're finding that people don't get saved and they don't ever want to come to our church. So it's been really effective.
As long as the head count is increasing, though, that's all that matters.
Exactly. As long as the numbers are up, that we can get one shot and put it on our website of how full we are. No, dude, for me, I've never done on Easter I know of dude, it's Easter. So it's cross resurrection, just every year, different text, slightly different angle, that kind of thing.
So you've never done like a first person type deal or anything like that?
Let me see. Have I done?
I like how Nathan just started laughing at the very notion.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever done it, dude. I think I've always picked, just a text that captures.
I gotta say, Greg, I don't think you've ever done like that first person like character point of view since I've known you at CFC.
No, I've never. And dude, I'm being careful here. I'm not ripping on him for doing this. Dave Shy, another mutual friend, has done those before. Now, when Dave does them, they're really well done. They're not schmaltzy, cheesy. Dave does so much research, almost to a fault, where he's giving detail of the character. And he doesn't get into character. He just kind of says what this person might do. I don't know. Maybe there's a way to do that in a way that's not schmaltzy, but I've never done that. I'm assuming, Zach, by your question, you haven't either.
No, I have actually.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah.
I did a sermon my second year at Judson, so that's 2006. From the point of view of a Roman centurion, I got the costume and everything.
Yeah.
I come in, I wasn't anywhere to be seen when it was time for the sermon. Then a sound clip starts playing of a horse running up and neighing, and then a guy getting off in footsteps, and then I came walking in, and I was like, I gotta do this, stick this entrance so that it's not goofy and nobody laughs. It's like a serious thing because it's Easter, and I walk in, I got bare legs and everything because I was trying to be legit. Yeah. Everybody burst out laughing the moment I walked in that room. I had a real sword with me too, and I was like, you don't want to laugh at me right now. I'm I'm sensitive. I might pull this sword out.
Yes,
but I've regretted that. I mean, it was all right, but
yeah, I know what you mean, dude. Because I think part of it. I don't know if you feel this, Zach. I think we've talked about this, Nathan, in the past. Most preachers I talk to for Easter that do it regularly, it's kind of a daunting task because I always feel like the expectation is so high. And wow, how do I say he has risen again and again really loudly and in a way that captivates people? It's it's tricky, you know. And I've always found preaching on the cross, while it's emotionally heavier, of course, easier in many ways, because you're just you're connecting the point of the sinner's need to the provision Jesus made, and and when I do the resurrection, dude, it's always the same. I've got one quote from Stott that has been whipped to death, and I'm paraphrasing it, but I look back over my Easter sermons recently in preparation for this one, and I've got one where Stott says something like, "The cross was the victory won. The resurrection is the victory celebrated, exalted." So that's always the kind of connection I try to make. The angel saying, "This Jesus who was crucified is not here; he is risen." So that Easter won't let us just have a resurrected Jesus as if he kind of just went up into the atmosphere like a helium balloon. Oh wow, neat, he's back. But it really has meaning only as a guarantee that what he did on the cross actually worked. So I try to find a way to make that my message just about every year. And sometimes I've done angles. I bet you've done, Zach, as you preach enough. Have you ever done the what if sermon, 1 Corinthians 15? What if Christ had not been raised?
Yeah. In fact, I did that as a seminary student 2 or 3 years in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And I was in at different churches. And I was in Grand Rapids, which is, kind of the Christian Reform Mecca. And there's a big liberal church in town, and it's called Fountain Street Church. It actually used to be one of our American Baptist churches, and they are now just like as liberal as it gets. And I had clipped out a news article, local interest, religion page, whatever, of the pastor of that church, pastor in quotes, church in quotes, saying how much he struggled with he is risen because he only believed in a metaphorical resurrection.
Wow.
And it ended with him, a quote from this guy saying, "For the record, I die for my own sins." And so I busted that out. And I mean, so these people are, within a couple miles of the church in question. And I would read most of the thing and say, this is so empty. And Paul says, this is the natural endpoint, emptiness, just total hopelessness, but for today, but for Easter. Yes. And so I think that's a good message. I feel like I've been at my current church. This will be, I think, my 14th or 15th Easter.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've hit most of the, not topics, the scriptures and angles that you can really hit without repeating yourself.
Yeah.
And there is the one up. Like the guys that do the first person every year. I know a dude who eventually he was the donkey one year. That's ridiculous. And then I am not making this up. This is in Holt, Michigan. He was the stone.
Oh,
they had like a thing with like the paper mache, stinking grave and everything. And there was a stone. And it was time for the sermon. He popped his face in, and he had gray makeup on, and he spoke as like the stone bearing witness or something. I don't know.
Wow.
Save me from that stuff.
Yeah. Dude, it's just, because I think, I don't use that. I mean, honestly, if you can get 5 like solid angles, different aspects, I mean, there is an extent that you can recycle by year 6 or 7 because nobody remembers.
Yeah.
Or the 2 people that do are your real sermon connoisseurs, and they probably get it as a result of that. Because for me, I'll kind of do. Some years I go a little more apologetic. So to answer your first question, because there's an abundance of guests that I recognize are likely non-Christians. They're certainly unchurched. They might not even be believers, and I think there's a strong likelihood that's the case. I think it's foolish not to be mindful of that and to make connections for those people to think about, and to give something obviously for the believer to be edified, but also for the unbeliever to think. So the apologetic stuff, like you weren't at youth group this week, Nathan, but we ended up talking about it somehow randomly. Just that point that, women had zero rights practically in first century Judaism. And the fact that you've got in all four Gospels women as the first witnesses is like, if you're making up a story to dupe the masses, why do that? Why?
I think it's nice that you still let Nathan be in the youth group.
Yeah, I know. Well, dude, we sort of need a resident unregenerate guy.
Take care of everyone's pets after the rapture.
Exactly. So when we don't know what to pray for, we pray for Nathan's salvation. It's helped everybody really. Oh Lord, how could we forget Nathan? How long, oh Lord? So there's sort of the apologetic thing, which is, I view it as double. It faith builds for the believer. Hopefully you're giving some really meaningful content that they can take with them, and for the unbeliever, maybe it's the Greg Kukul thing in tactics. It's a pebble in their shoe that maybe they're thinking about a little bit. That's what you hope for. The one thing we always say, Zach, at our church, that we haven't always done this. I've sometimes given into lesser impulses, but we generally go out of our way to never, even on non-holiday Sundays, rip the Christmas and Easter attenders. Oh, yeah. Because the majority of people in our culture don't attend at all. Right. So to me, the Easter attenders, man, they're doing better than 95%.
Well, and why are you going to go back somewhere if you go and they're like, ha ha, you suck? I mean, exactly. It just doesn't make sense. Exactly. We want you here so bad that we will belittle and single you out when you are here.
Yes, exactly. And it's low-hanging fruit to get what I call the quick and cheap amen, of the guy who's patting himself on the back for going to church because his wife makes him every week. He might feel good that one week that he's not a C&E, CEO, Christmas, Easter only attender. But yeah, that's what I found. So I got to ask, so this year, where are you going to be? Are you thinking of doing something independent or just staying right in Acts?
I'm not going to stay in Acts. I don't know what I'm going to do. I honestly usually leave that until about a week before. I have my schedule of my sermons. It's planned out several months, and there's a hole right there that says TBA.
Gotcha.
And because it wasn't going to work in this case, there's some stuff in Acts 1 and stuff that would have worked, but or even Acts 19 or something. But where I'm going to be, it isn't going to work. And I feel like doing something real basic. I'm probably going to grab. I haven't actually just preached on like a resurrection narrative in 2 or 3 years. I'm probably just going to do that. Yeah. I mean, I've done so many that are. It's kind of like with Christmas. I told you guys about all the wacko Christmas sermons I've done, and every once in a while you got to just reset and just do the basic thing, and that way you don't feel that pressure anymore of I got to outdo last year. No, Absolutely. Last year will be fine.
Well said.
I don't know, like, I've done the Road to Emmaus, all these, like, things around it. I've done the Thomas. I did that last year. I thought that was, afterward, when I was listening to it and clipping out my mistakes, like a liar, I was like, dude, this was one of my best messages, like, ever.
Yeah.
And I did one about, good grief, it was, like, basically it was more a cross type thing. But also, I also am similar with you in that. I did one that was like the fountain of cleansing from Jesus' side and how the early church fathers and the connection between the temple and stuff. And then one year I did the temple itself and the people of that day. The word I'm looking for is contemporaries of the apostles. There's all these accounts, these weird accounts of weird crap happening in Jerusalem. Yes. About this time, temple torn, earthquakes, people coming from that, and that kind of thing. It goes along with the other apologetic type stuff, like just reminding people these 11 guys that were peeing their pants and running away and hiding in a room weren't about to go and jump a detachment of Roman killing machines, and steal a body. Yes. That's not about to happen, but those things, I think they're important at Easter because if Christ was not raised, then no one is raised, and we don't have any hope.
Oh, that's good, man. That's really good. I enjoyed doing. It was probably 8-9 years ago. I did the Thomas narrative. I think it's the only time I've done it. It's just so much good stuff in there, and of course the confession of his deity, and you can link that to the opening thesis, that he kind of drops down from chapter 1, that high language, and and the Logos was God, and then to take it all the way to Thomas's personal confession is just such a cool thing. And then the only other one I've done that I wouldn't mind bringing back sometime, and again, Nathan, this might predate you. Zach's kind of walk down memory lane is making me think of some too. Is although the temple one is good, I've never looked at that angle. All the kind of stuff happening associated, but I did one on doubt, which was a little risky because I know that could be kind of a downer. Excuse me, but I just looked, and I'm sure you've noticed that how many references in all 4 Gospels around those first Sunday morning events capture doubt. Thomas obviously is kind of a whole case study, but even in Matthew 28, and they worshipped him when he's on the mountain, but some doubted. You know what I mean? The fact that when the women tell the apostles, they don't believe.
They sound like they're out of their mind.
Yes. So to be able to take that kind of believer and unbeliever, hey, if you want a cutesy thing, does my doubt rule me out? Something like that. And that Christianity has plenty of room for doubt. Some of its most loyal, adherent followers doubted, and it's not a black or white issue. You know what I mean? There's a sense in which our faith is small and it can grow and develop, and doubt is always there. That's kind of an interesting angle. I think a steady diet of that, you did something like that 3 or 4 Easters in a row, and I think your people would probably get pretty low. It's like, could we get some Jesus defeating death rather than the doubt side of things? So it's the more subjective side, the responsive side to the events of the passion and the resurrection. I did one that didn't go well. I remember when I heard him years ago, I thought, this wasn't good. I did a series, and again, Nathan, predates you. This is probably like 2005. Mm-hmm. And I remember leading up to it. So it was anticlimactic because I started doing a series like in early March. Easter was like how it was this year, late April, on the resurrection appearances of Jesus. And it just wasn't what I hoped it would be. It wasn't quite enough, at least the way I did it back then, for a substantive series. And then when you think, by the time you get to Easter morning, you've been talking about Jesus' resurrection for like 7 weeks. And I remember thinking, this was not a good idea. So any aspiring preachers, don't do that. Don't do that. Your people will not respond well, and neither will your wife. But I like that temple thing. I think kind of the associated things around it. And so, okay, note to self, Nathan, write this down. CFC this year, I'm going to preach on those animated corpses. So I'm going to call my Easter sermon "Fear the Walking Dead."
There it is.
There we have it.
Cheer the Walking Dead.
Yeah. Even better, dude. Even better.
Nathan, you make sure that Greg does not preach from John's resurrection narrative, as he is barred from preaching from the Gospel of John for some time.
Yeah.
Yes. What I'm going to do, dude, what about this? What about this cool idea? I'll find a text for it later. What why don't we start with the phrase? We'll find a passage later. Don't worry about that. And let's take the phrase. How about this? How about we take like a regular garden hose, right? And we like cut it and we wrap it around a banana and we put it on the top shelf of a bookcase. Take a real glossy picture and call it hose banana in the highest. Yeah, let's not do that. No. I was just thinking how some people get their idea. It might be the equivalent of that. Let's not do that. Can we actually cut that out of this podcast?
I might have to.
You guys do a sunrise service, or do you just have one on Easter?
We just have our regular
services.
We have a 9:15 and a 10:45. We haven't done a sunrise. There's that camp I mentioned earlier, Beachmont Christian camps in our area. They've done a community sunrise. I stopped doing it, Zach, years ago, just because I was too exhausted on Easter. Because the one year, dude, I kid you not, one year I think it was one of the earliest Easters, like early March. I woke up with a fever and chills. I think it was a time change Sunday, if I remember correctly. And I preached at the Beachmont sunrise service at, you're there at whatever, 5:45. It really feels like 4:45, whatever time it was. And I got there. I was completely toast. And then by the time I was done that, I'm popping Advil, liquid gels and stuff in the car. And then I had to preach 2 times at church. And I thought, I'm not doing that again.
Really? I thought that was one of the times we had the 3.
You know what, dude? You may be right. I'll have to look back and see when we went to 3 services. I'll go back and look. Yeah, and that may have been a 4-service Sunday, which was just crazy, too exhausting. So I assume do you guys do one at your church?
We used to have one called the sunrise service when I arrived.
Yeah,
and it happened at I think 8 or something. So a couple hours after sunrise. I think they called it the SON rise service, right?
I love it, dude. Yeah.
And I did it, and it wasn't very well attended. We kept it going for 4 years, and I found out later that one of the reasons that so few people came is because a previous pastor would do the exact same sermon and the same stuff as the main service. And so people are like, oh, no, I'm not going to go to that because I'm going to go to the other thing. But one year I said, I'm too, because we also do, we team up with 3-4 other churches. At that point, it's probably 6 or 7 other churches in the area. And we do Holy Week, Monday, Thursday, Good Friday. And then for a long time we had every day at lunch. And so you're preaching and preaching and preaching. And so I said, this year I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to prepare anything. I'm going to have 3 people give short testimonies.
Yeah.
And we're going to emphasize kind of the resurrection. I'm a millennial, so we just spiritualize the resurrection. And
very good. I liked it.
and so I said, I got 3 people who are going to give I'll do a little thing about, Jesus came back from the dead, first fruits. We're going to rise again. And even now we're risen with Christ. And here are 3 stories. The only people who showed up were the 3 people who were supposed to give the testimonies and their families, and then maybe half a dozen other people. It was and at the same time, they're downstairs, a bunch of people preparing this huge Easter breakfast.
Yeah.
So the times overlapped with that. You can smell the sausage cooking, and you're like, I don't want to be here. But this year we're bringing it back, dude. And we're doing it. We're calling it Sunrise. I think that I saw it in our bulletin as SUN, which is disingenuous. Yeah. But we're doing it from 8:30 to 9:15 or something like that. It was really late in the game. And I'm going to preach on Hebrews 9, real brief, 15-minute message. And that'll be that. And we'll see how it goes. I'm going to give it 2 or 3 years to see if we can pick up some steam. I always like to make more of Easter than we do. My son and I will sometimes go to a local Episcopal church that has an Easter vigil on Easter Saturday.
Oh, okay.
That's fun. They have a spurge, and throw water all over the place.
Yeah.
We just spurge at my church because we're Baptist. They us.
Of course. Yes.
I don't think we can make too big a deal out of Holy Week and Easter. I'm in no way Presbyterian. I think some days are better than others, and the Apostle Paul should have realized that.
Yes, he should have. We're actually building a time machine to go back to get him to change parts of his letters that we don't like. It's a little edgy, but if you think about it, we're not really going to force him. We're just going to appeal that'll change sections that we find upsetting or confusing. Why don't you
just start the Paul seminar instead of the Jesus seminar and decide what he didn't really say? If you don't like it, he didn't write it.
Yeah, and we'll have that really sophisticated method they did. Didn't they have some goofy method of red beads and yellow beads? And honestly, I remember reading that. You've got these scholars and people think, they use this sophisticated method to, that would be determinative of the actual words of Jesus and which one were layered with tradition and which ones he never said at all. And I remember thinking, man, how do they determine something like that, or how do they go about it? And I remember it might have been in CT or in the 90s reading this thing where if I remember rightly, it was like basically just groupthink.
Jelly beans.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like we've got 50 people in the room, and 40 of them think Jesus probably never said that, so that's a red one. Or I guess maybe it's not red because that would be red letter. Brothers, I'll be here all week.
We won't be, but all right. But that reminds me an awful lot of how, like, when they had money to give a certain number of raises on the office, and everybody got like marbles or something, and they went around. You couldn't come up with something dumber for Dunder Mifflin to do than what the Jesus seminar actually does with a straight face, while telling Jesus what he said.
Yes, exactly. And since you brought up The Office, dude, I must ask, do I have this line right? The best line. This was our former youth pastor's, Sean Nolan's, favorite line, Nathan, I think I remember, is that when Michael says, if I was in a room with a gun with 2 bullets, with, what did it say, Hitler, Mussolini?
Hitler and Bin Laden or something?
Yeah, it must be Bin Laden, Hitler, and Toby. I'd shoot Toby twice. I want to get that on a T-shirt and wear it to preach in. No, I might not want to do that.
Are you the way that you are?
Yeah.
I hate so much of the things you choose.
As you are, but just classic. And it's funny you say it, dude. I am doing something a little edgy on Saturday morning. Well, right now only 3 people have said that they're going to come. But if our Sunday morning volunteers for Easter, because we are trying to, kind of double up parking attendants and greeters, and because to expect more guests and to have a very good public face as people come in. We're doing a training on Saturday, and I found a clip from one of my favorite Office episodes called The Dinner Party. Do you remember that one?
I watched it like last week, man.
Dude, no. The awkwardness between Michael and Jan, and there's just a clip where Jim is hiding in the bathroom, talking to the camera, and he says, it's like Jan and Michael are each playing their own separate game. And it's called, How Can We Make Our Dinner Guests the Most Uncomfortable? And then he says, and they're both winning.
And then Jim got a call that his apartment had flooded.
Yeah, remember? Dude, Lisa always says that part, how she'd kill me. Do you remember how he was going to ditch Pam?
Yes.
Dude, how gold is that? Because remember, Michael goes, well, you don't both need to go for that. And they kind of look at you and goes, okay, well, dinner sounded like it was going to be delicious. Pam, I'll see you back at the house. And she's like, oh, I don't think so, Jim. I don't think you're going to leave this dinner party, right now, because you can buy new stuff, but you can't buy another dinner party. Code for herself. Great show. Yeah, dude, we may have to get a little more spiritual next time, Nathan, and do an Office podcast and talk about why it's genius.
What about Office-themed Resurrection Sunday?
Yes.
Ooh! That just segues me into this. I often will. I think I once preached starting with this, and then segued in from this to a text. But I have 3 or 4 times done a Sunday school period of, is Easter pagan?
Oh.
Do we A, embrace it as it is and love it, B, have to like de-paganize it and turn it into Resurrection Sunday, or C, reject it all the way around because it's named after a goddess and it's full of pagan imagery and all sorts of horrible Roman Catholic stuff?
Yes. I feel like, I don't know, have we done something like that? We've done things like that for Christmas. Like, because you do occasionally have people that ask that, right? And then when people start learning about the great Spurgeon, who spurned Christmas.
And Lent.
Yes, that's right. And spurned Lent too. And I assumed, did he do anything for Easter?
He actually kind of went back and forth on Lent and Easter. Okay. You can find him saying, we're not going to keep these days. But then even on Christmas, he would often happen to be preaching on the birth, and on Easter Sunday, to be preaching on the resurrection. Yeah.
Well, that was him redeeming the time, redeeming the time from what was pagan.
There was no Easter egg roll in the lawn at the Metropolitan Tabernacle. So that's for sure.
That's right. Yeah. What if we do this, Nathan, for CFC this year? Again, this is better graphic. Forget the stupid hose banana and highs. How about we've got we have an Easter bunny saying Jesus is risen, and there's little chicks next to him that say exactly.
Oh,
what do you think, guys?
Ew.
I mean, that's going to bring in.
Greg, I think I'm going to be attending another church on Easter.
Greg, I already came up with that independently, so I'm already doing it.
Right.
And it's not because you said it.
Dudes, this is the perfect stopping point, dude. My Isaac is making his way back. So I am going to abruptly head off, Nathan, because am I right, at 8 o'clock are doing another podcast?
Yes, we are doing Phantom Galaxy podcast with Nathan Bartleball.
What are you guys talking about? Bartles to Bartleball. What are you talking about now?
Yes, exactly.
We are talking about Jordan Peele and Us and the new Twilight Zone. And
yes.
Did you see Us, Zach?
I haven't, but the trailer looks insane, and I am so geeked for that Twilight Zone reboot. Oh, my gosh.
Yes, I've seen the first episode. Did you watch it, Nathan?
Yep, watch the first episode. So,
which is The Comedian. They've released that. Dude, it shocked me because I thought of it as CBS.
Yeah.
But it's obviously like some CBS cable thing. Because did you notice there were a couple of
there was
F-bombs in there?
A couple?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got to be careful because if you remember, I won't even joke, but the female character, the fellow female comedian at the beginning,
yes, she
drops a really nasty.
Yeah,
I was like, whoa, man, because I was just prepared to watch it with both my boys because they've watched the Twilight Zone old stuff with me.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah. So
why would you have to make it crass? They didn't have to do that to make it creepy and awesome the first time.
Dude, I thought the same thing, man. It was frustrating to me. I thought, because actually they seem like they've strived very hard to keep the spirit of the series, haven't they?
No, I agree. Yeah,
Sterling. But so I was like, man, that Twilight Zone had like a shoestring budget. They weren't dropping sensational stuff, and it was a compelling show for its time. They didn't need to do it. Hey, hop in, Isaac, dudes. I'm going to hop off.
All right, brother.
All right, man. See you later, playa.
Hey, you bet, players. Hey, and Zach, hope it's a great Easter.
You too,
I'll
man.
check in with you guys later.
All right. Catch you later.
See you, dudes.
See you, Greg. All right, Zach. We're winding down here, man. That was a fun episode. I'm glad we were able to get Greg back on. Kind of talk about some Easter stuff amongst all the other things we were talking about. Oh, man.
Almost talked about Easter.
That's right. Almost got there. But no, it's, good time as always when Greg joins us back on the show. And we're going to go ahead and sign off now. Zach, we just rocked the Casbah.
These go to 11.